So welcome to our session, Engineering the Wheels of Tomorrow. This is a very, very interesting session because I think this is everyone's dream, not to be stuck in traffic and to be moving around, not driving and yelling at other cars. I hope you don't experience that in your countries at the moment. So allow me please to introduce our guests for this session and we'll move forward. Mr. Nassim Belkhayat, CEO of Neo Motors, Morocco, welcome. Dr. James Peng, co-founder and CEO of Pony.ai. Welcome. And Leon Soulier, Global CEO of Turkey Siemens Mobility, in addition to Tony Han, founder and CEO of WeRide. Welcome, everyone. And I ended with you because I want to start my first question with you before we move forward with all the other questions. Actually, there has been an announcement. So we were going to start with you. I'm going to start with Pony.ai initially because you have just announced an agreement with an investment with NEOM, $100 million. Can we please start with that? What does this investment entail initially?
Yes. First, I'll introduce myself a bit and the company. So my name is James Peng. I'm the founder and CEO of Pony.ai. Pony.ai is a company founded 7 years ago in the Silicon Valley, but we are currently actually the main operation is focusing in China. So we are a startup company that focusing on developing autonomous driving solutions. The reason we get into the field is, as Maria just said, right? There's a lot of the problem associated with the current mobility industry. Certainly, we all have experience with stuck in traffic, or we get into a very frustrated in the road rage and all that. So we think autonomous driving will be a good solution to make the transportation to be a lot more efficient, will be more convenient, and also it's a good solution that are facing the energy crisis with the internal combustion engine. So I think for us, the autonomous driving certainly has gone through a long way, and we launched fully driverless commercial usage at the end of last year, so about a year. So now if any of you have an opportunity to go to Beijing or Guangzhou, you'll be able to use your mobile phone, get a ride coming, and you'll be the only one inside the vehicle. It's a very surreal experience initially, but after a while, you're probably going to take a nap in the vehicle because it's just like a very experienced driver. So I think that's how we do this. And certainly, we started looking, how do we make that similar experience, that benefit to the other region of the world? Because the thing that I think everyone, most of the regions, probably everywhere, facing the similar mobility challenges. And we started talking with the GCC region and ended up with discussing with the NEOM and this kingdom. And I think we're very excited about the new opportunity of building a brand new city, ground up. That's a similar thing like us. We are tackling challenging problems like autonomous driving from ground up. So I think that kind of similar mentality, that similar way of thinking, and also the approach that bring in the autonomous driving to solve mobility problems. So that's the starting point, and then we ended up with the investment as the initial step. I think what's even more is that we'll form a joint venture and also a regional headquarter here
in Riyadh or in NEOM?
In NEOM, and use that as a launch pad to actually help with the mobility problems in the GCC region. So
autonomous cars really scare me, but WeRide as well has managed to get licensing in the UAE, in the US, and in China. What does it mean to be licensed in this region? What does it mean for autonomous mobility?
Okay, so for license, I personally view license as an agreement because, autonomous driving vehicles is a new thing. We are inventing the future. And just I mentioned to you previously, like before the invention of the car, we don't know have the name of the car. We call it horseless carriage, right?
Yeah.
So when we have a self-driving car, this kind of thing, the permit, both the regulator and the entrepreneurs, we are in a trial mode. We try to co-develop a kind of system so that to allow autonomous driving vehicle to test safely and also bring the benefits to everybody. That's why, the company of WeRide, we are still the only company holding driverless permit in US, in China, and in UAE. And we are here, and we are trying hard to push maybe to bring driverless, full driverless autonomous driving to KSA. And we take lots of efforts to bring one L4 level autonomous driving vehicles to the venue of FII.
So we're going to try it.
Yeah, you can try it, just experience it. So for the permit, I think that's most important, and the safety is our key. And the vision of this company is trying to make sure the driving skill will be like horsemanship. So you are not obligated to learn how to drive a car. That's our vision, and I think in 20th century, we are experiencing a period called industrialization.
Okay.
I think 21st century, we need another new word. I call it intelligentization. So intelligentization means you endow the intelligence to the car in terms of mobility. And I think it is here. And we need business opportunities. We need support to make this a reality.
So going back to what you initially said, remembering what Henry Ford once said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Yes. So we have the car, and look where we are today. We're talking about driverless cars eventually. That brings me to talk about Morocco as well. Nassim, you have launched your first 100% car made 100% in Morocco. How do you look at that? EV also.
Yes, thank you. It was a challenge. Like a big challenge for a country like Morocco in Africa, how to build his own brand, his own car, because Morocco, 20 years ago, by His Majesty the King, have a vision. He is our compass. He has a vision for Morocco as a huge player in automotive industry. We made the basement. We are I think Saudi Arabia now with the vision to introduce automotive industry. She use a good player for autonomous car, for electric car. We have another vision in Morocco that we build the basement. We build area. We build industrial area. We build technical center for research, for development, for training. And we have the vision that a car is a link between people, okay? And in Neo Motors, we build a sustainable car, as we use practically only the component from Morocco. Instead of, we have Renault and Stellantis, huge player in automotive industry. We have more than 250 equipment tiers 1 in Morocco, more than 230,000 employees. We have everything. And what we do in Neo Motor, we federate these people to build our own brand with a value of recycle component, with local sourcing, with manufacture. We think that a car, it's not only something we can drive with. It's a passion. We talk about car, we spoke about technical specification. She is the basement of employment. We huge employment people. Instead of the car, this is technologic innovation. Donc, in Neo Motor, we think that this value it's important for us.
Do you think autonomous might be something in your future? Do you hope for it?
I know that we are going to grow fastly in aligning with autonomous car. But this is not our challenge now. Our challenge is to rebuild the basement. With the pandemic, we saw that the chain of supply chain broke up, okay, with this whole globalization. And hopefully in Morocco, we have our equipment in Morocco, and we are happy to announce that we do everything during the pandemic. D'accord? Donc we thought that we need to build some regional hub. And we have a huge regional hub in Morocco for Africa and for North Africa.
Okay, so now we've laid the ground. I mean, we've created the cars. How do we lay the ground? Let's talk to Siemens. Do you think the world is ready for a new infrastructure when it comes to the way that we ride cars or all vehicles?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. So my name is Leon. I look for after Siemens Mobility for Middle East and Africa and globally for all turnkey projects. Very happy to be here at FYI. I've heard through some of the colleagues, and I see that you're 7 years in operation and operating in many different industries, autonomous and also electrified. I think it was Siemens that's been around for 175 years, and more than 100 years ago, we invented the first electric car. So it's very good to see after 1 century it actually coming to fruition. The vehicles that we produce are slightly different from cars. Actually, we produce trains. And just to give an aspect, I think a train or a high-speed train will take about 20,000 cars out of the road. In terms of their life cycle, we run about 400,000 kilometers per year and a lifetime of 30 to 40 years. So if you think about the megatrends that's currently impacting, let's say, our daily life with sustainability, climate change, but also urbanization. 54% of the world currently lives in cities and expected to grow to 70% simply by 2050. That means that there's a necessity for all modalities. And I think that for people would come to us, let's say the customers would come to us if they see that the cities are being clogged up by cars or being clogged up by, let's say, traditional modes of transport. And they would come to us to say, hey, listen, we need to have a efficient, autonomous, sometimes digitalized public transport opportunity. Like, for instance, in Egypt, where we're building the biggest single high-speed rail in the world, 2,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. So that would put Egypt in one step somewhere between Germany and Japan in terms of high-speed rail capacity, let's say, on a world stage. But also closer to home here in Riyadh, where we deliver a significant portion of the Riyadh metro, which will change the landscape of a city for the best and for the future.
When we talk about changing the landscape, let's go back to autonomous cars. Where does this fit in our future? Or when will we see this as part of our daily life, Doctor?
Yes, to follow up with, I think the keyword is the multiple modality, right? Okay. It's a different forms of transportation I think will be defining the future of mobility. It's high-speed rails, it's the flying cars, it will be gliders. If especially around GCC region, if you're near the Gulf, I think there will be boats and the gliders and all that. I think this all will be an integral part of the whole mobility ecosystem. And the thing that the mobility demand is very diverse, right? If you go from, say more than 1,000 kilometers, I think airplanes still arguably still probably the best way of transportation. But for within the city region, yeah, if you know if the population density is high enough, it's the train, the metro are the way to go. But I think cars will always be part of the mobility because the thing that it's more convenient, it's personalized, it has your private space, and especially for the last several miles, I think it will be there. And with the electrification and then with the autonomous driving, I think then the future of mobility will be even science fiction like. It will be with.
We'll be living in a science fiction movie.
Exactly. It will be your personalized space where you enjoy your time. You'll probably have your customized working space as in your car. So I think those are within our grasp.
Tony, talking about that, what should we keep in mind when it comes to the future of the cars? What should we bear in mind when it comes to emissions or safety? Is this something that is a concern?
I think, so first of all, I want to follow up that question a little bit
Please.
about that multimodality. I think there are two concepts. One concept is called electrification. The other one, as I mentioned, is intelligentization. So if you think about train, what's the nature of currently the change of the train? We change from ICE engine to electric high-speed train. So the nature is like the energy you consume. We change from like gasoline powered or oil powered to the electricity powered. So that's reduced the carbon footprint. But the nature for a train is like a driver can take like 1,000 people or take 1,000 ton of goods. To replace one people, the manpower, it's like marginal, okay, for that part. But, for cars, just think about how many taxi drivers, everybody coming here, like, you are waiting for the Uber driver to come to
Oh my God, let me not tell you about that.
That's the nature of the problem. So I think autonomous driving is trying to solve that problem. So that's why, we always say, I always say there's a two half games. First half, electrification. Second half, intelligentization. And we are focusing on that part. And I believe that part is emerging. We heard lots of discussion about electrification, but just, the audience are here and we talking to many decision makers in Saudi. I'll say, okay, of course, in the electrification part, you need to catch up, but intelligentization, you need to really actually prepare.
Start over, maybe?
Yeah, you need to really start to prepare for the things like in terms of the talents, in terms of from the infrastructure. Infrastructure not about a charging station. For autonomous driving, what will be the pick up and drop off location? What does it look like? So for this kind of thing, we really need to think. But in terms of emission, I think electrification trying to solve the problem to replace the ICE engine and change to a cleaner form. But at the same time, if we use autonomous driving vehicles, we can drastically reduce the number of vehicles we need in the city because the mobility will be shared. You don't need to have a private car. The usage of private car is only 15% of the time.
So we're not talking about the private cars. We're talking about buses, about other types of vehicles, public transportation vehicles.
My feeling is like in future, the buses will be reduced drastically. Today, bus hold like 50 people. In future, buses will be looks like a van. So it's shared mobility. So of course, you can have your privacy if you want to pay money, but the whole thing, the car or the bus, I don't know what to call it, it's shared. So we just need like 1/10 of the number of vehicles we have. In that sense, we reduce the emission to a big extent.
Before we move on to the next point, I would like your opinions on this. Do you think that it makes more sense to have shared mobility in the future? Or, I mean, we talk about trains, I'm sure you believe in that, but what about the region? Is this region ready for shared mobility? Most people have one, if not two cars in their homes. So who would like to?
Maybe I can
Yes,
jump
please.
in here. So I think if you look at let's say the model, I mean, Siemens, we're a German company, but in Germany, at one point, we measured the state of welfare, let's say, of the people, not about, let's say, lower income people owning a car, but higher income people taking public transport.
Okay.
And I think that is something that you see as a trend, that public transport, let's say, the way that we have, let's say, the paradigm that we have thought about it, that people are cramped up in buses or in metros, and I mean, in China we've seen situations that you have to push in the last passenger to get on the train. So this is something that we would need to rethink. So public transport in this region, we see a lot of customers that are coming to us and say, hey, listen, we want to create a business class experience in the metro or in the high-speed train. We've just recently launched our new ICE train in Germany, where actually we're providing a living room experience into the trains. And these types of things would actually attract people to take public transport, because the benefits outside of the environmental benefits of, let's say, lower emissions and lower energy usage, are also the time you basically gain by taking public.
Working when you, yeah. I mean,
You can work, and I mean, I'm not sure what the top speed of the car manufacturers I see around me is, but our trains operate at 300 kph, which is significantly fast. So therefore, but I do see that the landscape of mobility is changing, because the big deficit or the big challenge, let's say, by getting people into public transport is that nobody has a train station in front of their house, right?
Okay.
So you would have to provide some ways of first and last mile access to get people into the train. And there, I think shared autonomous mobility plays a huge role now and in the future, especially in the landscape of the Middle East, where the climate obviously plays a big part. In Germany, you can ask people to take a 1 kilometer walk or a 2 kilometer bicycle ride, but that's, let's say, rather difficult.
Difficult here in the. I mean, there are times
a
where
bit
it's good weather and you can do that, but it's not very. These cities in the GCC are made for cars. So how can you transfer that? Is that it's a city made for cars in general. So when you speak about mobility or public transportation, how does that fall into it?
No, I don't think the personal car ownership
Okay.
and the shared mobility and the metros, they are really contradictory to each other. They are actually complement to each other.
Okay. So
Say,
business class shared mobility?
Yeah, it's not like you 100% of the time you always drive your own car, right? You can have car ownership, which eventually will be fully driverless as well. But in the meantime, as I said, they'll build metros, and then the last miles or 3 miles will be done by the shared buses or shared personal vehicles, fully autonomously. So again, I don't think that the future will be all just autonomous driving vehicles on the road, but back to the ideas of it's going to be even more modes of transportation that will make people's life more convenient.
I would like I think we don't need to see autonomous car or EV car. We have to see the industry, automotive industry, the key role of automotive industry. She's establishing a global supply chain, connecting business between nations, promoting exporting, fostering international trade, contributing to global economic, developing employment. I think our region in North Africa or GCC, automotive industry is a locomotive for innovation, for employment, for new role of automotive industry. I think this is one of his pillars here, developing and promoting some value as a sustainability, environment, privileging work parité. Okay.
Work-life balance?
Yes. Voilà.
Okay, so Tony was talking initially about electrification, and we have to move towards being more intelligent when it comes to mobility. Currently, you are producing EVs, but you also produce gasoline-run cars.
Yes.
Do you think the future can handle a complete move towards EVs with your cars? And when could that happen? Maybe not within the next 10, 20, 30 years, but when you start producing only EVs, is that a possibility? Do you see that happening in your future?
This is not our strategy.
Okay.
Because we are at north of Africa, but in south of Europe.
Okay.
We need to have both of benchmark and strategy. We need to. D'accord.
Thank you.
Okay. We need to have a manufacturing strategy as create employment. I insist about create employment, local sourcing, and facilitate mobility. Our role, our mission in Morocco is facilitate mobility for African people and developing local sourcing for south of Europe. Voilà. This is our key role, actually, for us in our region.
So let's talk about collaboration as well. Let's move to talk about collaboration and government collaboration in this industry. How important is it to collaborate with the government? You said when it comes to Saudi Arabia, you have a deal, an investment deal. Licensing is an issue. What is the importance of collaboration or the collaboration with governments in order to move mobility forward?
I think government plays a critical role in the whole mobility industry. Well, for mobility, I think the number one concern is always safety.
Okay.
That's the same goal for us. Always number one goal for us is safety, and that's the same goal for the government and also for the related industry. So the key is how do we come up with a good regulation to facilitate the development and the operation of autonomous driving vehicles. I think different countries may approach the problem differently, but at the end of the day, it is come up with reasonable expectations, come up with good regulations so that it's not high enough. For example, if you have zero tolerance to the accidents, it's just going to be impossible. And then when that single accident happens, it's gonna kill the industry in its infancy. But if you set too low, people will not feel safe enough to adopt the usage of autonomous driving. So I think having...
What's the solution here?
So I think the solution...
I mean, everyone's scared of that, I think, no?
Exactly. So I think it's having set up a good metric where we can clearly measure the safety of the vehicle. For us, the standard is at least needs to be roughly 2 times safer than a human driver, average human driver. I think that's probably more or less a good standard to start with. Using that as a statistically as a standard, and then we can nurture the industry, giving people the opportunity to try it out, and gradually. And also, another important piece of the government participation is on the accident handling, in terms of insurance, in terms of the accident. How do we properly assign the responsibilities? God forbid if there's accident. So I think with this, then the private sector and the public sector can work hand to hand, and then make this happen.
So I would like to get all your opinions on collaboration. I mean, is it only about safety and governance, or would it be something else? What do you think, Leon?
So I mean, maybe just I agree with what my colleague said. At the same time, I would gear on a slightly different aspect. So if we look at the Paris Climate Agreement, I mean, the cities are to achieve certain goals by 2030, and I think a lot of the countries and cities here in the region, they have adopted that goal. That also means that but certain technologies take some time to implement. I mean, if you have a plan of making a public transport network within your city or throughout different cities of the country, it requires a planning stage, it requires some land acquisition, it requires a feasibility study, it requires financing, then it requires implementation, and then you would have the usage. So that means that basically due to COVID, I think we lost 2 years in the global space, also with some of these programs. Most of the programs have not disappeared, but they have basically been prolonged. And that means that from now to 2030, there's basically 7 years left. And that means that if we want to be at a certain, let's say, mature stage in 2030, we would have to accelerate. That means that the old paradigms of public money spending, taxpayers' money, which I totally agree to, needs to be done not in a black box, but it needs to be done together with the industry.
But you said we lost 2 years of time, but haven't we gained when it comes to research and technology and development? Because when the technology just within the past 2 years, or the years of COVID, there was a lot of work and consistency in that area. Don't you think it made up for some time?
Yeah, so I think that the technology, at least in our domain, has been there for quite a long time. I think it's about decision power of governments that they're willing to invest. I think what COVID did was basically they prolonged, again, the 2 years of investment. So we've seen that the investment have been prolonged, halted. During COVID, at least, there was a big question mark, will people ever get back into public transport because of the pandemic? Right? I mean, might not be a safe space. I think now we see passenger flows in the West and in the East back to pre-COVID levels, even higher than pre-COVID levels. And what's been added on top is that the 2 years or the 24 months sort of we lost is now creating a sense of urgency to reach a certain level in 2030. So that means that we have to make decisions now. What we see in our space is that it's about standardization, but it's also about, let's say, making use of the technology that's already out there. I think the fact that I refer to the Egypt high-speed rail between contract signature and the first train on site, we had 24 months. Why? Because the Egyptian authorities, they asked us, hey, listen, what can you bring to us that basically has an impact now? Because we want to have an impact now. And then we said, well, we have a standard train, or we have a very nicely equipped train that we're running in Germany. What if we make it climate friendly to Egyptian climate, and we can supply it in 24 months? And they said, we trust you, industry, you provide the best trains of the world. Let's just get started, right? Instead of rethinking, remodeling, making bespoke solutions, and basically dragging the program out to decades instead of years.
Yes, please.
Yes, your question is really in the middle of innovation. You know, when entrepreneurship, an entrepreneur takes some risk to develop some technology and innovation, he needs the trust and the encouragement of his government. In Morocco, we have a department only dedicated to automotive industry, and they follow you, they listen to you, they help you, they could, as you say, modify some rules to adapt and to limit the risk. And I'm happy to say that our Minister of Investment is here to encourage my participation. And I think we need to be listened, and the risk is part of our business.
When you talk about this risk, is the Moroccan infrastructure ready for EVs in the way that, I mean, again, we go back to, I know that you make EVs and you make gasoline-run cars, but EVs, are we ready in Morocco?
EV is our strategy. You have to know that more than 40% of our electricity for the country come from wind and solar. Mm-hmm. We have a strategy for hydrogen. Donc, we have a strategy with more than 2,500 electrification stations in Morocco in the next 3 years. Population are sensitive to sustainability, to environment. Our beloved king made all the job, all what he can do in infrastructure to see his model as a model for Africa. Mm-hmm. You have to know, nobody say, Morocco is between south of Europe and north of Africa. We are a model, okay? And we are a locomotive.
You are a stone throw away from Europe,
yes,
right?
We are at 14 kilometers. That's why my vision is always manufacturing. Our role is create employment, share value, and developing new business. You can develop autonomous car, we can build it in Morocco or manufacture it in Morocco.
That's amazing. See, there's a deal here going. Tony, do you think it's only when it comes to regulation and rules, when it comes to autonomous cars and collaboration, or is there anything else that could be added into the mix?
I think in terms of collaboration, there are several dimensions, not only just like through regulation or this kind of thing. I treat collaboration, especially in today's world, there's several dimensions. One dimension is, I would say, across the products, like say, WeRide as a leading autonomous driving company, we supply autonomous driving technology. Of course, we are going to team up with all kinds of car makers. You know, we work with Bosch and deliver our ADAS system to one most famous brand in China, Chery's car. Our ADAS system is available for their car. That's for consumers. The other, you know, I can enumerate several examples. You know, we can work with some cleaning company to use our robot street sweeper to clean the streets. That already happened in China. That's one dimension across product. The other collaboration is across country. That's why we are coming to FII, right? You know, China,
and there's a car that we're gonna try.
Yeah, the car is here. China has been a pioneer in electrification, right? Everybody knows, like the Chinese car OEMs are selling electric cars all over the world, and but the things, if you think about in nature, I think the China car OEMs are selling cars, but in nature, what can we do to help other countries? Like we come to KSA, like we have operated in UAE for 2 years. What can we do? We help them to actually to test the infrastructure, right? This is total new thing.
So we're still testing. We are,
Yeah,
it's
you
a
know,
testing
autonomous
process.
driving, you know, I call testing is a long period. You know, the invention. If you look at the invention year of the car, you know, the Mercedes-Benz will say it's in 1892, but the Daimler will say 1896. You know, it's kind of 10 years of invention period. Autonomous driving vehicles is the same thing. You know, today we bring a minibus here, but still, I can say the most skillful driver can outbeat that minibus. But within 10 years, will be better. So the things we want to this kind of foster this collaboration environment. We need funding support. We need a business opportunity here in Saudi and in our MENA country. But what can we bring to them? I think we can cultivate the environment, test the infrastructure, help them develop infrastructure, and most of all, we can help to build a group of talents. You know, the great universities are here, and you know, I was a professor before, and through this kind of business, we can help to cultivate the people. So there are many dimensions of collaboration.
There's talent acquisition is something that would be interesting to talk about, but I just want to see if anyone has any question in the room. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I'm curious about some of the setbacks that the autonomous vehicle industry is facing. So we saw that just a few hours ago, maybe 10 hours ago or half a day ago, California banned cruise vehicles from driving on the streets because of safety concerns. So how does WeRide and Pony.ai deal with such regulatory headwind? And how do you propose to calm down the regulators as well as the general public about the safety issues? My turn.
Yeah.
Very good question. Actually, you know, want to share a little bit story in history. How many of you knows like Henry Ford's company? Ford's company was the pioneer building airplanes. Okay, at the beginning, Henry Ford, they are building airplanes. You know, Boeing is another competitor. And at that time, you know, there was accidents, you know, because they start to transport passengers. It can hold only 8 passengers. And then there was an accident, and Henry Ford was just so nervous, and they said, "Okay, nobody died. We just only hit only one casualty is the hands in the farm." So the cancellation or the revoke of the permit is all because of the tragedy happened. But I don't want to elaborate details. But I want to say, the development of our human civilization, there will be always highlight time, there are downtime. There are lots of designs of today's industrialization and the aeroplane. It's all because of some accidents. I think this is just a small hiccup. I think a speed bump, but that one actually a very, very precious lesson for us to develop better autonomous driving technology. And also, we need to design a better scheme, because during the development of the autonomous driving vehicle, you also want to keep our society safe. So I personally don't think that will will hasten the development of autonomous driving industry. It will just help us to develop in a better, efficient, safer way.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's actually come back to my last answer to the question was the public and private collaboration and coming up with the good rules and regulations to facilitate the development. I think for the specific case of cruise being suspended on the operation of fully driverless vehicles in California, I think that's a way, in a way, I think it's that regulation in action, right? When we see there's potential safety-related accidents, the regulators actually come in to work with the private sectors. Eventually, I think that the safety concerns will be worked out. So that will be the part. If you look at specific one company like Cruise in this case, it will be up and down. But I think as an industry as a whole, it's still developing. It's actually a good way to come up with that comes to how we deal with accidents, how we deal with safety concerns. Throughout this process, we figure out a way. Because this won't be the first one. It won't be the last one, right? It's going to be more and more these cases. Then we can come up with standards, come up with understandings, right? It also gives the passengers and all the users, consumers, ease of mind, so that eventually they will make more users want to use it. So I think it's to call it a hiccup is already an exaggeration. I think we're still continuing moving. Also, it's safety is critical, right? It also depends on each company's how they approach it. We tested fully driverless for more than 300,000, probably close to 400,000 kilometers now, and we have 0 accidents. It also depends how we approach accidents, how we develop the technology and use the operational to ensure safety. So I'm optimistic about this.
Well, accidents do happen still, but we always say it's human error. So we don't want to say it's a machine error. Maybe that's why. Maybe people just want to avoid that. I mean, but that will start as a different conversation. Let's stick to this conversation talking about the wheels of tomorrow when it comes to trains and the infrastructure of them. Where do you see the transformations happening? I mean, you did mention the train in Egypt, which is a climate-friendly train. What does the future hold for this industry particularly? Where do you see the transformations?
So, I mean, you're asking about my dreams or you're asking about my predictions? Because those are two different things.
Both. If they're completely different, that's a problem.
Let me start with predictions. So, I mean, what I see happening in the industry, and I think we've just recently acquired in December, we signed a contract for the Western Airport Metro in Sydney. And what I thought was amazing about, because we like building metros, but what I think was amazing about this contract, that the full, let's say even the execution or the construction of the contract or the construction of the railway line is completely CO2 compensated. So that means that even if normally you would say we have to invest in concrete, we have to invest in rails, we have to invest in steel, we have to invest in, and even the production of an electric vehicle or of an electric train has a certain carbon footprint. Mm-hmm. But here, the idea of the client was, I mean, we have to, let's say, adhere to our climate goals already now. Even when we're fighting climate goals, by making investment, we have to adhere to it now. So I think that's a very promising idea, very promising concept, and I would like to see that, let's say, in all of the projects around the world, because there, I believe that countries who or companies that are, let's say, serious about their carbon footprint agenda, serious about their ESG agenda, are being rewarded for that. So that's number one.
That's your prediction?
That's my prediction, is that it will be more and more once we get closer to 2030. It will be more and more, let's say, the normal way of doing. And it's also my dream is obviously, I mean, I've been in Egypt many times. And I never got to see Luxor. So, I mean, in a few years from now, when the train is up and running, it will not take me 14 hours by car or 12 hours by normal train. It will take me less than 2 hours by high-speed rail. I will take my family to Cairo and I will drive them to Luxor and we will see some of the antiquities there. That's my dream.
Do you think there will be any breakthroughs, or additional breakthroughs in the technology for trains?
In terms of autonomous driving, we're also looking at autonomous driving for railways. So the metro that we're currently building in Riyadh, together with some of the partners, will be one of these autonomous driving metros. So some of the challenges that the colleagues are currently going through, let's say we had that, or let's say we're a bit further in the maturity cycle, which is really exciting. And I would expect that would also flow into new public transport modes and new modalities. Plus, what I think is very important is we know the concept of mobility as a service, right?
Okay.
So I would expect that at one point when we have autonomous driving cars, robot taxis, I mean, whatever the future name is, as my colleague said, that people would go on their phone and they can order their transit trip throughout one modality that seamlessly flows through. And I think that's something that's in the works now. Some of the cities that are very much progressed. And I would see that in a couple of years from now, that would make it even easier for people to leave their SUVs or their cars at home and take a sustainable route from A to B.
Nassim, what would be, in your opinion, a breakthrough in technology for Morocco, for your industry?
We are in Morocco. In Morocco, we are investing in EV. But still embracing sustainability, exploring new technology and innovation, establishing robust regulation. And Morocco can lead the way, adapting a changing future of mobility balancing between progress, innovation, and practicality. Okay, we have some target for our ecosystem, automotive industry, still developing our ecosystem, still growing in innovation, research and development, keep investment in our country for a strategy of a region. Okay, Morocco is part of la ZLECAf. Region of North Africa. We want to do something new for this region. Voilà. And keep automotive industry as a locomotive for the region.
You do have a partnership with a French company. Do you
Absolutely.
think of partnerships beyond that? Do you think of partnerships in Asia and China, US, around the world? Or you are limiting to what you know?
No, absolutely no.
Of course.
Absolutely not. You know, our model for me is what do China in automotive industry in 20 years. They was at the beginning only manufacturing as low-cost country. Morocco start as a low-cost country, now is the best cost country. We are the model, the reference as the first one who just lead what existing before 20 years ago. And now we are growing fastly with good partnership with Asia. We have a good partner with Chinese company, with German company for some innovation. And we have to see as global situation, but think as a local.
Okay, so our time is up. So I'll just steal a few more minutes to give each one of you 1 minute just to wrap up. Can you start, Doctor?
Yes. So I think come back to the new campus. I think for the mobility, it's an old industry. Everyone needs to get from somewhere to another place. But with the latest development on AI, on the new energy, on the new infrastructure for the city, I think the future of mobility is going to be completely re-imaged. What we get accustomed to as mobility, as a transportation mode today, in 10 years, probably will be completely different.
Leon?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's about the wheels of tomorrow, right? And I think we're talking either about steel wheels in our case or about rubber tire wheels. But I think these wheels have to be integrated and they would work together. I see that there's a lot of good things happening. I'm looking forward. The industry is booming. I think there's a lot of exciting technologies out there that can be implemented fast. And I think with the threshold of 2030, we should probably all move in the same direction to make it real what we currently have on the drawing board.
Tony?
I think in the theme of the wheel of tomorrow, we want, our development of the technology can benefit everybody, can lift the society. Because today's world, I think the polarization of rich and poor people is really an important problem. And we really want to see using our AI technology, WeRide's autonomous driving technology, to make benefit to everybody, rich and poor, makes their life better.
As you know, Morocco is hosting in 2030 World Cup, and I think for the 7th next year, we are the land for new opportunity, for railway, for new technology, for autonomous car. I think you have to see in this area and try to share your new technology innovation and what we do as best actually.
I also look forward to trying the bus outside, riding the car, maybe also going through your EV, through that train to Luxor as well. Thank you very much, my dear guests, for this amazing and enlightening conversation.
Thank you very
Thanks
much,
a lot.
Maya.
Thank you.